I never was much of an engineer. I could handle the math, even the chemistry. I was a chemist after all. But the mechanics of engineering left me baffled. If you showed me a diagram of gears and cogs and pulleys driving a set of wheels, and then asked me, if you turn the first gear on the left clockwise, which direction would the final wheel on the right turn? I'm afraid I would be lost. Well, that's not entirely true. Statistically, if I guessed, I could be right 50% of the time. But if I tried to work it out, I invariably would screw it up. So that Wednesday morning, when Dick, my boss at the time, dropped a process manual and a set of blueprints on my desk, I knew I was in trouble. I was working for DuPont at the time, and a Japanese partner had asked if we could manufacture a very unique product for them. It was a fascinating material, and chemically, I knew we could make it. But the process equipment, that could have been an antique clothes wringer for all I could tell. They want to know if you can produce this material for them in the States, my boss told me. They want you to go over to their plant, their pilot plant in Hiroshima, next week to watch how they do it. Wow, I thought. A trip to Japan. And to Hiroshima. Wow. Usually our business trips were a quick flight to Philadelphia, an overnight stay in a nearby hotel, meetings all the next day, and then catch the 5:30 flight back to Nashville. This trip to Japan could be fun. Fine, I told my boss, but I'm going to need some engineering help. How about Don, I asked. Don was our most senior engineer. He was really a top-notch man, one of the best in the entire company. Well, I don't know if we could do that, replied Dick slowly, as if giving himself time to assess all the possibilities. I could almost read his mind as he mulled over the cost of sending an extra person, and also his recognition that I really wasn't much of an engineer. Well, okay, he said, but you folks had better make this work. And so Don and I flew out to Tokyo, and then jumped on one of those super efficient, sleek bullet trains to Hiroshima. There we were welcomed by a representative of our Japanese partner, who took us to their corporate guest house. It was a very traditional lodging called a ryokan. I was nominally the head of our two-man group, so I was allotted the best room. Rank is incredibly important in Japan, and they make sure that the trappings fit the rank. I was first given a pair of paper slippers to wear, and then escorted personally to my room, or I should say, my suite, by the guest house manager. And what a suite it was! The main room was furnished with very simple but elegant Japanese furniture, mostly richly stained rosewood. There was a very large low-slung bed, just about 10 inches off the ground, with a bamboo patterned quilt. Next to the bed was a bottle of scotch. Scottish scotch, not a Japanese knockoff. I'm not really much of a drinker, so that bottle remained open during my stay. Drinking, though, is very much a ritual of business entertainment in Japan, as we were later to discover. I was then given a second pair of slippers and shown into the bathroom. What a contrast! Instead of the traditional decor of the main room, this room was ultra-modern. The floor was made up mostly of slats of teakwood, smoothly sanded and stained a rich golden yellow. But the rest of the room gleamed and glistened from the bright light reflected from the many mirrors, stainless steel fixtures, and pure white porcelain of the deep tub and the shower and the sink, and most impressively, the commode. A high-definition flat-screen TV sat on the wall opposite the commode, which was also pretty fancy. But there didn't seem to be any faucet handles for the shower or for the bath. But later I was to find that both were electronically controlled. You simply dialed in the temperature you wanted, and the computer automatically adjusted the hot and cold water flows. The mirrors also had some unique features. Lights above the mirrors came on as you approached, and hot, dry air then played on the glass to minimize fogging. The water to the sink was also thermostatically controlled, but the shining glory of the room was the commode. It was a streamlined, artistically designed unit with arms that protruded from each side of a deeply padded seat. The arms had a flat upper surface covered with symbols and icons and Japanese characters. I couldn't even begin to guess their meaning. My guide then excused himself and left me to prepare for a meeting with our hosts and for the evening's dinner. I took a quick shower. I didn't need to use the commode, but I did need a nap. I was still quite jet-lagged. A couple of hours later, I went down to the lobby to meet with Don and another company representative who was to be our guide and to take us out to dinner. We were taken to a very secluded private resort up in the woods above Hiroshima. Again, it was a very traditional wood structure. We entered from the lobby on the ground floor into a long, richly panelled room. On one side were several broad stairs, like a rise leading to a narrow platform. And beyond the platform was a series of lightweight panels of the type the Japanese used to partition their buildings. On the opposite side of the room was a table filled with glasses and a wide assortment of beers. They seemed to be from all over the world. Sapporo from Japan, of course, Newcastle Brown Ale from England, Corona from Mexico, Kingfisher from India, Sam Adams from the USA, and many others. They even had Bud Light. It seems that the Japanese do not harbour any misplaced patriotic fervour when it came to alcohol. They'll drink anything. But my eyes were drawn to the two ladies serving the beer. They were geisha girls, costumed in the traditional scarlet-red robes, festooned with gold jewellery. But it was their faces that fascinated me. Faces masked in thick white makeup that made judging their age difficult. But let's be generous here. They were somewhat, mature. After several rounds of drinks, one of the geishas mounted the platform above the risers. Placing her hand in the steeple position, she bowed. I didn't understand what she said, but obviously she was announcing dinner. Then she and her colleague rolled back the screen to reveal the dinner table with a magnificent centerpiece. It was a fish, a large degutted, deboned raw fish, sliced into delicate pieces, then like a sculpture, reformed to its original glory. This was sushi at its best. Absolutely delicious, especially washed down with a now copious amount of sake. I was later to learn that it's considered impolite to allow a guest's drinking vessel to become empty. So the geishas were constantly gliding to our sides, refilling our glasses. I later learned that it's acceptable to refuse a drink simply by placing your hand over the glass. But alas, it's too late for that. But you know, sake is an amazing drink. It caused our gaseous, initially aged crones to magically morph into nubile nymphs. As I mentioned, I'm not a big drinker, so I was pretty groggy by the time we got back to the guest house. By this time, I really did need to go to the bathroom. For safety's sake, I felt it was better to sit down. Magically, as I sat, the symbols and icons on the arms protruding beside me lit up and sparkled a golden yellow, blue and red and some white. I'm curious at the best of times, but this time, after too many rounds of beer and sake and scotch, I just couldn't resist. I arbitrarily touched one of the icons, a red one. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Then that highly cushioned toilet seat began to warm. Decadence. Decadence. Pure decadence, I thought. I could have used this when I was growing up in an unheated house in the north of Wales. There, having to sit on an ice-cold toilet seat on a crisp, frosty winter morning could be quite invigorating. It certainly woke you up. Here in Japan, I luxuriated in the warmth, although it was getting a little too warm. So I punched another icon, a deep blue one. "Ah!" I yelled as a jet of ice-cold water shot up from the basin below. I felt as if it was razor-sharp icicles were suddenly thrust up into my rear end. I must have left several inches into the air, then blessed that cushioning as I fell back onto the seat. Then, to my horror, I realized that I didn't know how to stop the water flow. I didn't know how to turn this unit off. I punched another icon, another blue one with wavy lines embossed on it, and horror of horrors, the ice water began to oscillate front to back, back to front, and side to side. I punched yet another icon. Hot air this time, no, more like steam, and I desperately tried another icon. I don't know what that was, I thought, as the seat began to vibrate, but it was rather nice. And I tried yet again. Back to chilled water. Another icon. This time the TV came on the opposite wall of the bathroom. It was showing a weather channel. I didn't need that. I knew what the weather was. The weather was hot and cold and wet, and I punched another icon. "Blustery!" I yelled out as the ice water began to oscillate once again. Now that's pure torture. I picked another red icon and warm air began to circulate in the blow below me. At least that was tolerable. I completed my original task and reflected on what had happened. And then the humour of the situation began to surface, and I started to laugh. I laughed and I laughed and I laughed, so much so that I fell off the commode onto the polished wooden slats below. And it stopped. Everything just shut down. The symbols and the icons winked off. "Damn me," I said. "It's got a dead man switch. Just like the driver's seat on one of their fancy bullet trains. If the driver falls off his seat, the train goes into an emergency stop. This toilet is just the same. Get off the seat, and the thing just turns itself off." I looked up in wonder and amazement at that gleaming commode above me and thought, an absolute marvel. Who else but the Japanese could have engineered such a toilet? I knew I couldn't have. Then I realized I was back where I started. I remembered that I couldn't have engineered it. See, I never was much of an engineer.